have your attention, please? It's time for the final countdown. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's rock.
Women were created under God's divine providence from the rib of man. Since the days of creation, we were destined to be God-fearing beings of light, love, and peace. Women are innately benevolent, compassionate, and virtuous. We are strong yet gracious. We are bright yet modest. We are blessed with the authority to share our wisdom with the world while maintaining our majestic, nurturing nature.
Welcome. Good night. Welcome. Thank you guys for joining us. We are super excited. We cannot wait to share with you tonight because we're discussing, guess what? I'm sure you guessed it. We're talking womanhood. Once again, we are talking womanhood and what that means for you. I'm super excited tonight that I get to share with you our special guest for the night, Thalia. So without any further ado, I don't want to hold this back any longer because I'm super excited to have her here with us. I'm just going to introduce her to you as we start to talk to you about womanhood and what that means for her. Thalia, welcome to the studio. How are you doing?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having me. I'm
You
doing
are
good. I'm
most
doing good. How are you
welcome.
doing?
I am
Awesome.
doing well. I am doing well. I'm so happy to have you here with us tonight. So
Thank you.
tonight, Thalia, we are talking womanhood. But before we get into it, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about who Thalia is, what you do. Let us get to know you. Want to feel like we're your friend, you know? We want to get to know you a bit better.
Okay, no problem. So, first off, I am a daughter of the Most High. You cannot start anything without putting that out there.
That's right.
I am very, very grateful to be. Um, Apart from that, though, I am a wife and I am an entrepreneur. And recently, I am a podcaster. I can't believe that I'm actually including
Yeah.
that into the whole mix. I'm like, what God?
Look
Look
at
at what
you.
God has done. Yeah,
Yes.
but I am the owner of Created by Talia, and it's the Vision company. So apart from that, we have Kingdom Life, which is a Christian apparel brand, and then we also have a baby company, literally a baby company. It started in March, and it's all about baby clothing and faith based. So it is also about encouraging, like those that are waiting upon God. So that one is really dear to my heart. And apart from that, we have our Creating a Legacy podcast, and that's all about starting kingdom businesses. So that's me in general.
You say like, oh, like I only doing like one thing or two things. Like, I mean, like that's a lot. So let's unpack that. Where do you find the time to do all of those things and you're still alive? Wow.
Is honestly the grace of God. Is the grace of God.
Mm.
The career that I had before, so I would have worked in project management before leaving
Oh,
in
nice.
August of last year. And so I
Mhm.
worked in construction, and the projects that I worked on were pretty big. So it
Mhm.
meant that you had to have a pretty good handle on time management. I've always been someone that likes to be busy though, so I think God has been building that from early. So
Wow.
now it is more of just making sure that I give each thing enough time, because it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to sometimes focus a little bit more on like the main company and forget that I'm still building the other ones. But
Yeah.
we learn each day. We definitely
I'm
learn each
telling you,
day.
because I'm like, you gotta figure out, okay, today we working on her, next day we're gonna work on him. We're gonna try to
Yeah,
figure it out. Wow.
exactly.
Wow. Interesting. But
Yeah.
it's Womanhood Life series. So I do have to ask,
Okay.
how do you define womanhood? What does that mean to you?
Okay, I would say womanhood to me is the journey to virtue. And
Mm,
that's been something that God has impressed on me for quite some time. I remember when I really first understood what virtue meant, like really coming to the understanding of that Proverbs 31 chapter.
yeah.
It really impacted me. And I found as I grew in adulthood that I started to really want to push towards being a virtuous woman. And so I even remember like I would have started like little groups on WhatsApp. One was called
Mhm.
Virtue, then there was Virtue Part Two, um, because I really wanted that community to also go on that journey of virtue, and God has definitely
Mhm.
blessed me there. I now have my sisterhood, the Daughters of Zion International, and like having that community to now grow together in that journey of virtue is amazing. But that's basically what it is to me, and that's what I strive to do in everything that I do.
I like that. I never heard someone put it that way. Virtue. I love that. I love that. I see we have Sharice in the chat, and she's doing a job
I
over there.
share.
Yeah, yep, she is eating it up. She's like, yep, amen. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Of course, we know she's a part of the virtue as well, and also a part of the Daughters of Zion. That's clear. Welcome, Sharice. We are happy to have you here tonight. And welcome, Shodia, as well. Thank you for joining here tonight. So,
Welcome, guys.
yes. So, Talia, tell me, I have to know. After you
Okay.
just gave me that definition of what motherhood means to you, I really now have to ask because as a woman, we go through so many different changes. Let's
Yeah.
not get started with the body because that's the one main thing that we
Yeah.
always have a change with. So,
Oh boy. Yeah.
listen, we can stay on that for the whole night, but we don't want to dig that up so deep, right? But I
Yeah.
really want to touch on I was talking about being a woman, and you just mentioned all the things that you were able to, you're currently doing.
Yeah.
Would you say that you have superwoman syndrome?
Yeah. Yeah, is pretty bad. You know what, God, but you know what, God is currently taking me on a journey to really help me there.
Yeah.
I was really bad to the extent that the way that I approached independence was crippling me. So I really
Mm,
wanted to do everything by myself, but the reality is that God, there's I can't okay, if I had the verse, the whole chapter in front of me, I would go through it.
mhm,
But there's a verse there in the same Proverbs 31 that speaks about her having maidens. And there was a day that we were having that discussion, and I was like, wait, hold up. She had help. All the things
mm,
that she was doing, yes, she was making the fabric and she was getting all the materials and she was waking up early and cooking and all
God.
these things, but she had help. And we sometimes put ourselves in this compromising position thinking that, you know what, like we have to do everything by ourselves. We have to be superwoman and just no one can help us. We miss
Yes.
independent, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be strong, but
Mm,
having strength, you also have dignity. You also encompass all the components of that
yes.
virtuous woman. And
Mm,
that also means knowing when you need help and being vulnerable enough, being humble enough to
yep.
ask for that help. So yeah, I definitely have been there, but God has put me through a journey that
Oh my
has humbled me.
Lord.
Has humbled me. I mean, I am fortunate to have my husband, and like
Mhm,
it is the two become one. But I
mm,
went through this whole period of so wanted to be so miss independent that I forgot that the two have to become one. And for the two to become one, it meant that I had to make myself vulnerable enough for there to
yeah.
be that oneness. So yeah, it is a process.
Mhm.
Definitely is a process, but I thank God that He brought it to my attention because I was putting myself in some serious problems.
Lord. Girl, wow. I mean, like, I could talk about superwoman syndrome for like the whole time because I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like, okay, yes, we need help. And I'm
Right.
all for help. Trust me, I want as much help as I can get. I am really not.
Right.
I don't have an issue with that. But where my problem comes is when you have people who help you, I don't know what to do, or they're not doing a
Yeah.
good enough job, and it's like you're accustomed having things at a certain level, and I know the
Yeah.
person's mean me well because they may really want to assist, but then if they do it, and then it's like I'm at
What
a
did you
game
do?
and you all the way, yeah, like.
What's this?
I'm like, it's not that I'm not appreciative of what you're doing, but I'm
Yeah.
just like, you know what? Maybe this is not for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I trust and believe. Like because I
yeah.
do graphics as well, I have a really
Oh,
hard
nice.
time like relinquishing control and like someone would do something else and be like, I
Yeah,
think we could do this way, but I have a million and one things on my to-do list
yeah.
and stopping to fix that is going to push me
Hmm.
back. So it's like really picking and
Yeah,
choosing your battles as well.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
oh
yeah.
Lord, the Lord will help
So
us.
true. It's so true. But you know what I am learning in that process is that sometimes in getting help, you may have to seek that specific help out instead of
Right.
just allowing others to volunteer help. Because a
Yeah,
volunteer help could be anything. But when you
that's
seek the
true.
type of help that you want, you know, okay, I know, for example, you're working on graphics. I need somebody who has some form of knowledge about graphics. They might not
Correct.
necessarily be at the exact level as I am, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure that the person is close enough or above.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So,
And
so
that's
that you
all
don't
about
be
having that
frustrated.
relationship with God for discernment. That's why
Yes,
leaning on God is important. So the word says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding."
I am
We are
telling
leaning
you.
our own understanding because we're like, yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna do this, and God is like, I have someone set up to
Hmm.
do that for you.
That's it.
What
That's it.
What are you doing?
I'm telling you, girl, we have to pray for our destiny helpers and our
Yeah,
gatekeepers. Open up the gates, Lord. Send the destiny helpers, the ones that you designated for us. Those are the ones.
exactly,
Those are the
exactly.
so we can get this syndrome on a whole. You know, we can relax a little bit, and we
Yeah,
don't have to worry. Yeah, that's it.
yeah.
That's it. So you told us that you are a wife. So tell
Mhm.
me about that journey, of being a wife. I mean, you're very young, you're young, you're a wife and everything. And nothing
Mm,
is wrong with being married young, but
mhm.
most times we hear persons out there like, I ain't ready yet. Give me
Right.
a little bit more time and and get to
Mhm.
it and that kind of stuff. But being a wife at a young age, having to manage all of these things, you still have a household to deal with,
Mm,
plus you
yeah.
still have your husband to attend to. How
Yeah.
is that process as a woman?
It was definitely interesting. I always knew that I've always been very goal oriented. So I would have
Mm,
been like, God, like at X age I want to be married. At 25 I wanted to be married and God
mhm.
did that for me. I was very grateful. But I
Nice.
didn't really capture, I didn't really
Mhm.
grasp what that meant. So
Oh,
when it really hit me, it was like, oh,
yeah.
oh, all of this. Okay. All right, God. Okay, you're gonna help me through. Um, but I'm glad that in the process that he's like he never leaves her for sale. So he has definitely been holding my hand, but it has been a process because the initially I was still like I would have just finished my degree and I would
Mhm,
have been now starting my career. So when it was pursuing my degree, I didn't really have time to do the whole social life anything
mhm,
and now I had moved into a whole other set of responsibilities. So I was seeing some of my other friends that were still, like going out and having fun. It's not that I didn't have fun in my marriage, but there's
mhm.
just a difference because there's still you still have to be accountable.
Yeah.
And so having that level of accountability that I needed to maintain, there were points I was like, wow, what did I okay. Whew. But but honestly, God has definitely been teaching me a lot through the
Mhm,
process as I allowed him to work because as I had to once again pull back from that independence thing because no it wasn't just me, it was us, it's
mhm,
all about us. And like
mhm.
I really had this process, especially when I was much younger, of trying to I really had to go through the process of learning that it is not all about you, that
Mm,
marriage is sacrifice. You are
yeah.
supposed to be working on things for that other person, and as they work on things for you, that's how things are met, that's how all needs are met. And so it
Mhm,
was that process of making sure that of learning to make sure that I wasn't just focusing on what I needed, but what we needed. That definitely was that was a process. That was a process. It was not a walk in the park. I
Oh,
think I
Lord.
actually started to come to grips with that more recently
Mhm.
than anything. And God teaches me new things every day. But I am glad that I've made strides. I'm definitely
Mm.
grateful that I've made strides because whew.
Gosh. So tell me, okay, so coming from that, you able to make decisions on your own. So for example, when you're single, you go to a
Yeah.
store, you see something that you like, you just buy it, right? You don't have to
Yes.
think about it. But now you're married, you're like, is this a good decision? Do I have to run this by hubby? Like,
Yeah,
like, yeah,
exactly.
like, how has that been for you? Because I mean, it could be a shock. It could be like, wait a minute, like I never had to think about that. I was only thinking about myself, but now I have to
Yeah.
think about us. How was that for you?
You know what? It wasn't too bad
Okay.
because I found like if like it was as if God started to condition my mind. Be transformed by the
Mm.
renewal of your mind. So
Yeah.
I will go to the store and I'll be picking up things, but it wouldn't just be like, oh, what do I want? I'd be like, oh my God, people like this, people like that,
Mm.
people like that. And then what ended up happening is I actually was buying more things for him than for me. But like even when I go to the grocery store, I'm not thinking, oh, what snacks do
Yeah.
I want? I'm like, what snacks would he want? What am I making him for breakfast? Like, it's
Mhm.
more of that.
Mhm.
Yeah. But like obviously for big expenditures, like if I said I really wanted to go and buy maybe this really big expensive pair of shoes, that's
Yeah.
not Talia. I don't go shopping for anything. But let's say I was going to do that, I would have to be like, I was thinking about spending $200 in this, and he'd be like, $200 on what? Like
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. 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 So, okay. So I am still on this financial thing because I know
Yeah.
finances are very serious. It's a serious thing, especially when we
Oh
get
yeah.
married. So,
Definitely.
and for some women, especially a woman like you, because you like you said it earlier, you are independent and you love to hold your own. So,
Hmm.
coming into this marriage, did you guys have that discussion about, how money will be spent? Who had the highest debt? How you going to resolve that? Like, how
Hmm.
you going to deal around that stuff and still not, take away from him that he is still the head of the house? How was that? Because I mean, it's a very
Yeah.
thin line. How was that for you?
Yeah. That's actually a really, really good question. Um when we got married, I came into the marriage with that. I had the consumer debt that resulted from, okay, so I would have done my degree, yes, but I would have started to pay for my degree when I was around 20.
Mhm.
And so everything that I earned from my co-op pretty much went to tuition. And then so living now, like food and stuff like that, I
Mhm.
needed a little bit of help. So that ended up being like credit and what's not.
Mhm.
And so when I came into the marriage, I did have that. And so like I remember like when I showed him like how much it was, I remember like my knees were shaking,
Yeah.
every part of my body was knitted together. I was like,
Wow.
Jesus, Jesus. But he was very gracious. He was very gracious. But because of that, like we wanted to still maintain some element of separation so that I can focus on like putting
Yeah.
putting more money into that and not
Mhm.
impacting him in the process. Um,
Mhm.
and so we've kind of kept that approach as I continue to like chip away at all of that. But what I've also learned in doing that is that like if I had been more vulnerable, because I
Mhm.
was so convinced that I want to protect you from this, that I'm not accepting any help. And
Wow.
if I had been more vulnerable about it, I probably would have it all clear by now. That's the honest truth. But I was
Mhm.
so gung ho, like I am dealing with everything by myself.
You got this. You
Like
got this.
I got this. I put myself in this position. I'm gonna break myself up.
Wow.
And now I'm still dealing with it. The reality is I'm still dealing with it.
Wow.
We live and learn. But so I
Yeah.
would definitely advise that anybody in a situation like mine, like you're
Yeah.
transparent about it in the beginning, yes, but work on that resolution together. Don't be like me. Don't be like Talia. Don't be so strong willed that you can't accept help. Yeah, exactly. Sure, it's the superwoman syndrome, and now I'm still paying for it, but God will help me in Jesus' name. But yeah,
Amen.
I would I would definitely
Amen.
recommend that full coming
Mhm.
together from day one, like the complete.
Yes.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with having two separate accounts. I think it is good because if I want
Mhm.
to buy you a gift for your birthday, I don't want you to know that I went to whatever store and I
Mhm.
spent
And
X
prepare.
amount of
Yeah.
dollars, and you're like, we spent how much on this? No, I want to be able to just give you the gift
Yeah.
and you be surprised and we move
Yeah.
on. So
Yeah.
your personal accounts should be for things like
Mhm.
that, and then you have your joint account for like paying your mortgage and paying your bills and doing stuff for your
Mhm.
children, all that. I would
Yeah.
definitely recommend that approach. Don't be like Talia. Do better.
Oh, listen, Thalia is telling you do better. I like that. And it's interesting that you said children, because I really wanted to. I know when we first spoke, you had mentioned about becoming that mom. So what
Yeah.
has that journey been for you? How long? Wait,
One
first before
second.
we
One
get there,
second.
how? So, guys, I like that you're commenting in the chat. I like that you're placing your comments. Sharice is cracking me up. Welcome, Kimberly. Welcome, 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 welcome. We're happy to have you. Welcome, Heather. We saw you came in just a few minutes earlier. Welcome, welcome. So, yes,
Sorry
Sally is
about
back.
that. Sorry
No
about
problem.
that. I didn't want the
I got you. I got you.
yeah. Right. Sorry about that.
I got you. So I was saying, just before you answer my question, I was gonna ask. I wanted to ask, how long have you guys been married?
Okay, so October will be 4 years.
Oh wow! Congratulations, girl. Wow.
Thank you.
Yes, congratulations. So now the question that I'm asking is because I know you talked about wanting to be a mom and everything. How has
Yeah.
that journey been for you in becoming a mom?
Oh, it's been definitely interesting. It has been very faith based.
Mm-hmm.
God told me himself that I am his mustard tree. I thank God for getting me to that point to really having faith in everything. And the journey that I'm going through has required a lot of faith, a lot
Yeah.
of trusting God at his word despite how things appear. So when I was leaving university, I would have gone home. So home being Barbados, like right now I live in Canada. So I would have gone home, and prior to that, I would have noticed that my body was going through a whole lot of changes, and I could understand why, like what's going on. So I had a checkup, and at the checkup, the doctor said, "Oh, you have PCOS." And for those that don't know what that is, it is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Thank God for healing because He has delivered me from that. But that would have resulted in a whole bunch of different changes in my body and stuff like that. So when I got married, I came in with a bit of anxiety because anyone that knows about it will know what they say, what man says, because it's not what God says, what man says about that condition. Um, so that would have definitely been that would have put me in a interesting place to say the least. Um, but it meant that I had to have faith in the big God that I served, and that He was going to change the situation, and He has been changing the situation. So right now, that process has been having that continued faith, trusting that God is going to work with the faith that I have. Um, and me personally, that I have to put work in, because faith without works is dead. So work has looked like a whole bunch of different things for me. Right now, I'm going through this 40-day journey. I'm calling it my wilderness 40. And if we look at the if we look in the Bible, anything regarding 40, it holds that biblical significance that 40 is a period of like trial or probation. We see it where Noah was in the ark for 40 days and 40 nights. We see how Jesus was tested in the wilderness for 40 days. We see all of these different scenarios. And this is my 40 days, I believe, and I trust and I know before my promise, because God has promised me something, and I'm just doing the work to doing that, to seeing that evidence. But that work right now required that I change my diet completely, that I exercise a certain way. So that it has basically been the process, and the process has also been a little, what would look a little strange to others, where I would do some really strange things. Like I have a registry already. I have bought pacifiers. I have bought like development cards. I have been preparing, literally preparing, because I know what God can do. I know the God that I serve. And while it might look irrational to other people, it's like, what are you even doing? It doesn't matter, because I know what God said. I know his word, I know his promise. I know his thoughts towards me. His thoughts towards me are good, to bring
Come
me to
on.
an expected end. And
Mm-hmm.
so I am going to give him everything that he needs.
Yes.
Everything that he needs. So that's basically what I'm doing right now. I me, Talia, that does not like fruits or vegetables, is vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Ask
Wow.
me how I'm making it, and it is by the grace of God.
Discipline, discipline, discipline.
It's just by
Listen,
the
if
grace
you
of God.
want something
Oh
really,
my
really bad,
God.
if you want something really, really bad, you would do whatever it takes to get what you want.
Yeah. It's 30
Mhm.
days. I'm on day 18. I cannot wait to see day 30. God knows. I cannot wait to see.
But here's the beautiful thing: when you get to day 30, I bet you'll be like, "Wait, we're here already?" Like, I didn't even recognize.
Yeah. Yeah, most
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just hard
I
right now
don't think
because
I would drop it completely.
yeah, it's just changing
Yeah.
that familiar to something that's unfamiliar. So that's good. That is good, and that's a beautiful journey that you are on, despite all the bumps and the hurdles. I mean, when baby comes and you see this, you'll be
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
the baby," and you're gonna see
Yeah.
right that shortly after that. You're gonna be popping babies like I ain't trying to put them on you. I'm just you're gonna be popping
God got me
babies
set
like
up. God
nothing.
got me set up.
I am
God
telling
got me
you.
set up.
I actually know of a
Yeah.
friend, and she had the same struggle too as well. And she was a lot older, and it took her a lot
Mm.
longer to be able to get pregnant. But then when
Mhm.
she got pregnant, it was like she just couldn't stop. She was getting pregnant all the time.
Wow.
I just felt it was like so
Oh,
she
we're
called all
having
her
multiples, girl.
miracle babies. So
Yeah,
she's just
we're
called
having
it miracle
triplets.
babies. Oh my god, I feel for your
Yeah,
husband.
no, I'm telling
He's
you, we're
aware of
having
this.
it.
Like
I
you
Oh
consulted
yeah, I've said it. I talk about them all the time. I talk about them all the time. I have names. I have names set out. I had names since last year, well, written
him.
out. I
Wow.
want to tell you, I have
Shit,
prepared.
that's wow.
I
Wow,
have everything
listen.
laid out. Everything
Where
is
is Kim
there.
and Sharice? I know they're gonna come and they're gonna be the aunties. They're gonna be down there to assist because
Yeah.
one time
Yes,
I got
please.
answer in the
One
Chinese voice. One time, one time. Wow, like okay. Hats
Yeah.
off to you. Hats off to you. That's
Thank you.
super
Thank you.
women on another level. And I
Oh yeah.
congratulate you. Yes.
Thank
If I
you.
had the
Thank
DJ
you.
system in here, I would run a track just like yeah. Okay.
Ah,
So tell me, what do you think is the role a woman should play? Because I know we play so many roles. So what really is
right.
the role of a woman?
Help me. It that's
Mhm.
it. That's it in summary. I mean, God has laid it out pretty clear, and we need to abide with what the Creator has purpose for His creation. So
Yeah.
it is basically being that,
Help me.
and it obviously requires that we submit ourselves as a result to that
Mhm.
process. Um, I think the process of submission for everybody is not the easiest, because
That's
it's
true.
not that you don't have opinions or anything like that, or that you
Mm.
can't see. There are many times, especially that
Mhm.
a woman might, maybe because of whatever position they're in at in their life, especially if you have a little bit more time, you're
Mhm.
able to pray more, you're able to hear God more. So
Yeah.
you probably would have heard something from God before, and like your husband might not have heard it yet, but you still have to have that respect and that level of submission when you're
Mhm.
bringing it across. And um remember that at the end of the day, he's the priest of the household, and And
Mm,
if you might have if you heard something, if you're sure that you heard something from God, you asked for signs, you got the new signs, and you conveyed it, and it hasn't come across the way that you expected it to come across. Like
mhm.
it's still your responsibility to remain submissive in the process, not
Yeah.
to the detriment, obviously, because at the end of the day, we have to we're our obedience is to God first and foremost. But ask God, like continue to be on your knees, ask God to show you what to do, ask Him to change your situation because the heart of the king is in God's hands and He sways it whosoever He pleases. So ask Him to do the swaying and just continue to be on your knees, continue to
Yeah.
submit and be obedient to God. That's all you
I
have
like
to
that.
do.
I like that. You know, there's something that you said that I was like, oh, this is interesting because I'm thinking God showed me something, but He didn't show my husband.
Mm,
And I would say, want to
yeah,
be respectful, you want to wait, but how do you navigate a scenario like that? Like, especially if you know, like, okay, and the things that are happening based on the current situation, God is saying, don't do
right,
this or don't do that, but your
right,
husband hasn't gotten it as yet, and he's the head. You want to be
yeah,
respectful because we understand that, you know, we as women, we need to see that we are loved and feel loved, but men need to
right,
know that they're respected, they need to feel
yes,
affirmed and that kind of stuff. So how
right.
do you deal with that without making him feel less of a man?
Okay. I think one thing I, especially like if I whenever I'm faced with a situation like that, I'm genuinely a soft person, a soft spoken person. Like my decibels don't go too high. I don't think my voice can really do that. And I think that works in my favor. Um Especially because men require respect. You have to go to them in a respectful manner. So
Yeah.
don't force it down their throat. Don't be like, God said this and blah 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 blah. Like come to them compassionately. Be like, hey
Mhm.
babe, can I talk to you about something? Make sure that they're in a place to receive it. Um, and you express whatever. And if you get that pushback, just be like, okay, that's no problem, we can pray about it. And if they don't want to pray about it, just be like, okay, that's no problem. And you pray about it on your own. You just continue to pray about it, and God will change the situation. And because you have maintained your role as help me, and you maintain your role as submissive, because the
Mhm.
commandment was for us to submit to our husbands. Once you obey God's commandments, He will work everything out. If you are trying to do good by doing wrong, like that's not going to yield anything. But
Mhm.
once you obey God's commandments throughout, he will fix everything else. So you've submitted,
Yeah.
you said what you needed to say, you've obeyed, God told you to say whatever, you said whatever, and it did not work. Because at the end of the day, like what we fail to remember is that yes, we live in a physical world, but there is a spiritual. Weapons of our warfare are not carnal.
Mm.
So there
That's
could
right.
be situations where we have to work the
Mhm.
situation out. Heavenly Father, whatever stronghold is causing this there to be a block to the
Yeah.
receiving this information, Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, he will send dispatch whatever agency needs to bring about. He will bring that clarity, and then all of a sudden you will see that change of demeanor. You'll be like, ah, yes, God has rectified whatever spirit was in operation that was trained. Because the enemy, marriage is important. Marriage is very crucial. Marriage is for
Come
the
on.
furtherance
Say
of the
that again.
kingdom, and so the enemy is going to try everything possible to
Yeah.
interfere, and that also means interrupting communication. And so it might
Mm.
not be a case that whatever you said is wrong, but
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
impact of that obedience to that command, he's going to
Mhm.
try and bring discard, and it can be in the means of this confusion or misinterpretation of what you're saying. Because communication, you have the sender, you have the message, and you have the receiver. But
Mhm.
when the sender is sending the message, there's noise, and that noise could be different spirits that have been sent to bring that distraction. And it's for us to ask God to cancel out that noise so that that message will go
Mhm.
across to your receiver.
Come on,
Complicated.
listen. I hope listen. Students are here today because Talia is teaching. I hope you all came to take notes. Come on, that is some good teaching right there. You heard that? The sender, the receiver, and then the message, and then the noise. My gosh, I'm taking mental
Hmm.
notes. I don't know about that,
Yeah,
but I'm
that's straight from God.
taking.
That's the Holy
I'm
Spirit.
like, come on, girl, come on, just flow,
Hmm.
just flow. So throughout your womanhood, would you say that you've experienced any like traumas that affected the woman that you are? Not say affected, but that has shaped you
Hmm.
into the woman that you are today.
I think the traumas that I've really have more been with respect to like my body or my finances. Those are the two areas that I have definitely seen afflictions with. The body component, pretty much had I've had that battle for as long as I can remember. I remember when I was 6 years old, I would have told my mother. My mother would have been like, "Hey, why aren't you eating your lunch?" I was like, "Oh, mommy, I'm dieting." Like I, I've had that I've had that thing with body image for quite a long time. Um and unfortunately I brought it into my adulthood, and I still battle with it today. Like I still battle with it today. And then having dealt with what I would have told you guys with the diagnosis and stuff like that, that really impacted me. I remember that season, and I would have gone through depression and stuff like that, because at the same time that was like another wilderness season, because I would have gotten in news of that, the relationship that I was in at that point, that would have ended. And then
Yeah,
the day after that, the job that I was doing, I would have lost that. And it was like, God, what is this? Like, what, what
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
happening?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but God took me through a process of healing even in that. And I when after getting married, and even like the last checkup that I went, like the ultrasound was like clean, like there was no evidence. That's why I'm telling you, like I God like legit completely healed me from that, and is now just going through the process of that preparation to the promise.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole season, there definitely was a lot of trauma in that process, because in myself, like how rapidly it was gaining the weight, like I impacted me mentally. I was feeling very insecure, like, and then like in the process of getting married in that, and still being in that place of insecurity. And now I'm like, I really want to maintain attractiveness for my husband, but everything is happening in my body. Like, what's going on? Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of that, and that weighed on me heavily. And then obviously knowing that there is this correlation with our future, like how is impacting us and our children, is
Mm-hmm.
like it's it started to make me feel very insufficient as a woman, if I'm being completely vulnerable, honest, and
Mm-hmm.
transparent. Like the insecurity of that really creeped in, because I'm like, okay, like God said that we need to be fruitful and multiply. But right now I have all these things going on that is impacting that. Like, what what am I
Yeah,
even
what's
doing? Like,
happening? Yeah.
what purpose am I even serving, you know?
Wow.
Um so that I would say that was definitely one of the major traumas. And then the other thing with my finances, because of the because of that, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I'm a burden. I was like, wow, I'm a burden. Like, how can I bring this, like he has, how can I do this to him, how can I do that?
Mm-hmm.
So those things definitely. But God has been using those to mold me into being a stronger woman, that despite how these things appear, that
Yeah.
you can still accomplish purpose, that you can still fulfill purpose. And I am grooming you for further purpose through that.
Mm-hmm.
That each hurdle that you overcome in this process of overcoming this general thing is building you and grooming you into higher purpose.
I like that. I like that. So tell me, so why do you think then that we as women struggle so much with our weight? Like, why is it like everywhere you go, every woman you speak to can,
Yeah.
if they're not, they're lying. So, like, why do we struggle with weight? Why do you think that's the case?
Um that's actually a really good question. I think though it has to do with the environments that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
But I also remember I was on Instagram one day and I saw this post and it said that as young as 6 years old, that young girls tend to have body issues.
Mm-hmm.
But it said that it is a reflection of their what they see from their mothers. And that is a sign of a generational curse.
Mm.
So there is this long lasting generational curse of insecurity that is being passed on, and so we have to be very conscious of
Yeah.
how we interact
Mm-hmm.
in general. And we God said that we should think on things that are good, things that are holy, things that are pure. We really
Mm-hmm.
have to work on our mindsets in general. But the enemy, what I have learned, especially recently as Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
the enemy tries to bring us down by impacting our minds. You see, it's one thing to be impacted physically. Yeah, you don't feel well, but okay, after you feel better, like you'll continue. But if you are impacted mentally,
Mm-hmm.
like everything feels like it's crumbling. It impacts you physically too. Your mental impact impacts you physically. And so
Yes.
it is a thing that we're being afflicted in that way because the enemy wants us to focus on other things and become self-absorbed. And because we're feeling all of these negative emotions, we can't focus on the things that we're actually supposed to do, or
Mm-hmm.
we can't focus on giving love. Like you love as you love yourself, and if I don't love myself, how am I supposed to love others?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And love is the greatest ministry. God is love. So as a result, giving love
Yeah.
is a ministry in itself. But how am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to really pour out that love effectively if I don't love myself? I'm only going to reflect what I have on others.
That's right.
And so it's really getting to the depth of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
only way that we can really overcome that is by letting God work on it, letting
Yep.
Him break it all down. And He has been breaking it down. On this end, He has been breaking
Thank you, Lord.
it down.
Thank you, Lord. Wow, wow, wow. So, Talia, we are coming close to the end. Like, we could continue talking for all night,
Oh
the
yeah, for
whole night
sure.
long. But I have to ask before we go, what are
Mhm.
your lasting words that you would like to share to encourage a woman, but really standing true to who they are and really taking control of that womanhood and not being afraid? Because most times we find that women struggle to become who they are because of all the, like you said, the noises, the outside, the
Yeah,
noise and stuff, the distractions and so on. So,
yeah.
what would be your encouragement tonight to those women who are actually online right now with us and those who
Mm.
will come later and rewatch this video, about what it means to really own your womanhood?
I would say one of the things that we really need to get past is this misconception that having a sisterhood is bad. I used to be there. Especially because I worked in construction, I was surrounded by a lot of men. So like a lot of the people that I relate to would be men. But I always shied away from female relationships because I felt like they were very toxic. That every time I came into a female relationship, it was like, oh, somebody's bad mouthing this person or something or the other like that. Um, but I think one of the things that we definitely have to get past is understanding how strong we are as women, and how even that strength is multiplied in having that sisterhood. And once you surround yourself with godly women, like how much you can accomplish in that respect, because now that virtue is multiplied, and all the capacities that virtuous woman has is now multiplied like 1,000-fold, like one, which is you get that. So that is one of the head things that I would say: make sure that you surround yourself with a godly community. um and yeah, actually that's the I think that should be the main take home. Having godly community, that because you need people to keep you accountable as well.
Yes,
You need people
definitely.
to keep you accountable, so surround yourself with some strong sisters. sisters that will pray for you, that not that will take whatever information that you give them and go and tell everybody in the neighborhood. No, sisters that would be like, okay, well, I'm going to join you in prayer. I'm going to get on my knees and we're going to pray about the situation. And the two of us that are gathered, or the three, or however many, we will accomplish something today.
Yeah. I love that. So Thalia, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We definitely enjoyed it. We had some really great laughs, and we had some really good knowledge and wisdom that you shared tonight. So we are super excited that we got to have you in the studio tonight to talk on womanhood. But
my
guys,
pleasure.
yeah, you are most welcome. But guys, before we go out tonight, I always have something to share with you. So I have something else to share with you tonight before we go. So I want you to stand by as we share that with you before we leave.
Under Battered Bruised, Not Broken, the Queen's Mindset presents the Ladies Buffet Brunch, an all-white Gatsby affair.
Hi everybody, I am Dr. Suzette Husbands, and it's a real joy to be here and to be part of this wonderful experience that's coming up on June the 25th. I'm going to be talking about the will to love again. And this is the topic is so rich because it first of all identifies the fact that the will has to be involved in this change process. So many women go through challenging situations. We've been hurt in relationships. We've been abused. We've gone through difficult circumstances, and our love ability dwindles because love makes us vulnerable. And once we're vulnerable, we can be hurt. And so we really want to focus in on how do we bring ourselves out of that place and begin to do something that is so critical if we're going to survive in this world. And that is to love again. That I have been through seasons where people have hurt me and I've had to forgive, and they've hurt me again and I've had to forgive. And I remember asking God one time, teach me how to love. And he taught me by placing these circumstances in my life where I had to develop the will to love again. We can always find good reasons why not to. If it's a question of cost, then consider it not an expense, but an investment in your own life. If it is a perspective of, I'm not sure what's going to happen, well, you'll never be sure. So it's best to come and experience it for yourself, because being in the location and being in the space is very different from having somebody report to you on what it is. If it is that you feel vulnerable and you feel that you may not be helped in the way that you anticipate, then again, you can't really know that until you come into the space and be impacted by what will be shared. So I'd say to that person, don't procrastinate about it. Don't rationalize it away. Think about this opportunity to stop, to regroup, to refill your tank, to fill up your spirit, to build your confidence, to teach yourself. Use this as an opportunity to sharpen that saw that sometimes can become dull by constant use throughout life. This is a good time to stop, to pause, to regroup, and to be refreshed.
Yes, the dress code is Gatsby, and it's all happening at the Savannah Beach Club Hotel, located in Hastings, Christchurch, Barbados. It all starts at 11 a.m. and we go all the way through to 4 p.m. The box office for tickets, Mona St. Pierre Boutique, located in Fairchild Street, Bridgetown, Barbados.
It's the place to be on June the 25th.
That's right. You heard it. It's the place to be on June 25th. Guys, we are super excited about the ladies brunch coming up. We can't wait. Make sure you grab your tickets. Listen, early bird ends next week, Wednesday. That's May 25th. That's when early bird ends. Early bird tickets are $87.50 US. And we also have online tickets for those of you who are overseas. You may not be in Barbados, and you might not be able to come face to face. Then you can purchase your online ticket and join us as well. And that is only $50 US. Now, if you are here and you missed the early bird ticket, then you pay $100 US. And how do you get your ticket? Just go directly to our website at www.queensmindset.net. Once you go there on our homepage, select that link and go right ahead and register, or just go to our box office. You can go directly to our box office, Motor St. Pierre. That's in Fairchild Street in Bridgetown, opposite the terminal. Can't miss it. That's a place to be, guys. I'm telling you. So as soon as you go there, just let them know you're here to grab your ticket, and they will sort you all out. So we are super excited because guess what? We're going to do giveaways. If you've been to any of our events before, you know we do not play. We love to give back. We love to make sure we give. So we're going to be doing some amazing things. We want to treat you like queens. I'm telling you, because that's who you are. You're a queen, right? So we're going to treat you like queens. You're going to have some amazing giveaways, and then we have amazing speakers. You just heard from Dr. Suzette Husbands, but guess what? We also have others who will be joining us as well. Our featured speaker is Chippo. She's from London. And then we have Dr. Denise J. Charles. She's also going to be there too as well to share with us as well. And guess what? We have Karina D., a very well-known radio host. You know her, Girlfriend Get a Life. That's who we're going to be having in the building. And on top of that, we're going to have our phenomenal panelists, which is going to be Shakira Trotman Chase. And then you're going to have Carrie Carr and Patrina St. Hill. Listen, this is not to be missed. Come ready, dress, and to have fun. And let's talk a bit about the food. Like, the food, succulent. I'm telling you, like, I'm excited. If it's one thing I'm excited about, is the food, right? So if you're like me, you love your belly, then you know that's the place to be. It's buffet, which means you can go back as many times as you want, take up how much you want. Nobody's going to share you. You're going to share yourself. So join us on June 25th at the Savannah Beach Hotel right in Hastings. Grab your tickets and let's have an amazing time. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. It was indeed a pleasure having all of you here joining with us. Have an amazing night, and whatever you do, stay safe out there.